The skull was made out of paper mache and divided in half so you can be able to see the cranial structures and the full skull when you put it together like this. Each bone of the skull is color-coded depending on the bone that it is. The orange one, the one displayed right here, is the frontal bone, and here you can see the coronal suture, and it connects the frontal bone to the parietal bone. I'm going to put it like this so it's easier to see. This one is the occipital bone. I color-coded it in green, and the temporal bone is the blue one. And the yellow bone right here is a sphenoid bone, and the one right here is a zygomatic bone. The maxilla is in a lilac color, and the mandible is in the brown color. I also color-coded the inside of the skull to display in the same bone on the outside and in the same color. So right here, the parietal bone is in purple, dark purple, and the outside is also in dark purple, signifying that it's the same bone on the inside and out. So you can see where the bone is located on the inside of the skull, and the bone and like how it's located on the outside of the skull. The one painted in yellow here on the inside is the lacrimal bone, and there's two, one for each eye. That's where usually the tear ducts are, and the inside I colored in mint green. Now we will dive right into the cranial cavities. Here is a parietal bone. It's colored purple just as it is on the outside. The coronal suture is right here. It's in black. It blends in with the purple really well, but I hope you can see it from the orange side. Here is the squamous suture, and the lambdoid suture is the one in the back. You can see it starts from here and it goes all the way to the other side, but you can only see that part right now. The occipital bone is the green one. The temporal bone is the blue one. The yellow one is a sphenoid bone. The mandible, again, is a brown one. The maxilla is a lilac color. And the orange one is the parietal bone. And it's also the same on the other side, except it's flipped because they're left and right sides of the skull. So that makes sutures joint sutures that join the two bones together, like how the coronal suture joins the parietal bone and the frontal bone together. But in reality, the sutures are synarthrosis, which is a type of joint that doesn't move, and it connects the two bones with fibrous tissue. I painted the inside of where your eyeball is supposed to be like a mint green because it's supposed to be your orbital surface, because when your eye is there, it's not just hanging around in there and it can pop out of either side. It's actually covered by like a sort of cup. It's cupped by an sort of orbital surface like that, so the eyeball rests in. Above the nasal bone is where the sinuses, the frontal sinuses to be exact, are supposed to be located, but I wasn't able to create that specific part and other small parts inside the cranial cavity because it just didn't want to hold up. It didn't work out really well. I was just able to do the basic cranial structure inside of the skull, but it's supposed to be right here. Oh, that's also for you guys to know. That's the eye, that's the nasal bone again, and that's where the frontal sinuses are supposed to be. Okay, now we are going to talk about the paranasal sinuses. The paranasal sinuses are part of your whole facial structure. They're not bone, but they're there because they help you breathe, and they're part of all your sinuses. And I drew them right here. They're supposed to be located directly behind, like this. So the frontal sinuses are the two purple ones, and they're located on top of your eyebrows, or where your eyebrows are, depending on how close your eyebrows are to your eye, or depending on your facial structure. They're supposed to be around here, so you see like where your eyebrow is supposed to be, and above your nasal bone. The ethmoid, which are the air cells, I colored in dark purple, and they are where your nasal bone is supposed to be. So there's more than one. You can see it from the side, but I'm going to show you the front way first. So you see they're located right here, and they are the ethmoidal air cells, and they're part of your sinuses. The orange one is the sphenoidal sinus, and they articulate with the sphenoid bone, which is obviously why they're called sphenoidal sinuses. They're located where the sphenoid bone is, and they're actually behind the ethmoidal air cells. But from the frontal view, from an interior view, you can only see it like this, but they're farther back behind the ethmoidal air cells. And the ethmoidal air cells is not just one, there's multiple, as I already said. The maxillary sinuses is called maxillary because they're located behind your maxilla bone, and as you see, they're supposed to be located around there behind your maxilla, and I colored them pink. There are also sphenoid sinuses, and they are located on the sphenoid bone. They're more intricate than how I did it, but you can see the sphenoid bone like pops out a little bit. If you guys can see that, it pops out, and those are where the sinuses are supposed to be located. They're more intricate, and they pop out a little bit more, and they have like a little cavity here and another cavity here, but again, I wasn't able to recreate that. I also did a side view of your paranasal sinuses. So this is the front view, and this is the side view of what the front view is supposed to look like from the side or from a lateral perspective. The purple one, the lilac purple color, again, is the frontal sinus, and they're small, and they're where your frontal bone is. And these are, as I was saying, there was more than one ethmoidal air cells, and they're the dark purple ones, and you see, and the sphenoidal sinus is behind the ethmoidal air cells, but they look differently from an anterior view. But now you can see them from a lateral view, and you can all see how it's all interconnected, and part of the skull, and how it relates to the skull and the bones in the skull. The pink one, again, is the maxillary sinuses, and they're located where the maxilla is.